Warning: this episode discussed violent themes that could be triggering. We encourage you to take care of yourself and skip this episode if needed. This episode is brought to you by listeners like you, our magical elixir, and the spellbinding boost behind this mic. Thanks for joining us on this fantastical adventure.
Prepare for warp speed as we embark on a voyage through the vast expanse of science fiction in movies and television series. From distant planets to alien civilizations, we delve into the heart of the unknown, unraveling the tales that have captivated audiences for generations. Get ready to unlock the secrets of the universe on Code Flix.
Greetings, fellow sci-fi and fantasy lovers. Welcome to Code Flix, where we explore the TV shows and movies that shape our imaginations. I'm Andre Bonner, and in today's episode, we'll be battling demons and walking the line between heaven and hell in the Constantine series. A few months ago, I did an episode on The Sandman, which, for those of you who don't know, shares the same comic universe as Constantine. So it only made sense to dive into this series as well, especially for those of you who might need a little more context. Funny enough, I actually discovered Constantine long before The Sandman was even in production. And from the first watch, I was trying to figure out what kind of guy John really was. John Constantine is a type of man who downplays his skills by saying he dabbles in the occult. But let's be real, he's in deep. He's a demon hunter, a con artist, and a man carrying the weight of past sins. When an old friend asks for his help with his daughter, he's reluctant at first, but as always, he gets pulled into a world of supernatural threats that only he can handle. As the story unfolds, John is forced to make impossible choices, walking the fine line between good and evil. If you're into dark, gritty, supernatural stories with a morally complex lead, Constantine is definitely one to check out.
Constantine, stylized as Constantine, is an American occult detective drama television series developed by Daniel Chironi and David S. Goyer that aired for one season on NBC. It premiered on October 24, 2014, and concluded on February 13, 2015. Based on the DC Comics character of the same name, it stars Matt Ryan as the eponymous John Constantine, an English exorcist and occult detective who hunts supernatural entities. Although the series was cancelled after its first season, Ryan would reprise his role in the Arrowverse franchise, which retroactively established Constantine as part of the same continuity. Ryan also returned as Constantine in the DC animated movie universe and its animated spin-off series Constantine, City of Demons. John Constantine, a demon hunter and dabbling master of the occult, must struggle with his past sins while protecting the innocent from the converging supernatural threats that constantly break through to our world due to the rising darkness. Balancing his actions upon the line of good and evil, Constantine uses his skills and a supernatural SCRY map to journey across the nation to send these terrors back to their own world, all for the hope of redeeming his soul from eternal torment. Here's some key tropes from the series, with examples. 1. Anti-hero protagonist. Example, John Constantine is a chain-smoking, morally ambiguous exorcist who doesn't play by the rules, but still fights to protect the innocent. 2. Occult detective. Example: Constantine investigates supernatural cases, using his knowledge of magic and demons to solve mysteries and combat dark forces. 3. Reluctant hero. Example: Constantine isn't in the demon-hunting business out of nobility. He's trying to redeem his soul after condemning an innocent girl to hell. 4. Tragic backstory. Example: the Newcastle incident, where Constantine's failed exorcism damned a young girl to hell, haunts him and motivates his actions. 5. Demon of the week. Example: each episode features Constantine dealing with a different supernatural entity, such as demons, ghosts, and cursed objects. 6. The cost of magic. Example: magic isn't free. Constantine's spells often come with a price, whether it's physical exhaustion, demonic attention, or harming those around him. 7. He knows too much. Example: Constantine's deep knowledge of the supernatural makes him a target for both demons and angels, as he meddles in affairs beyond human comprehension. 8. Purgatory is just the beginning. Example: Constantine knows that when he dies, he's destined for hell. This looming fate drives his reckless and desperate attempts at redemption. 9. The world is a dark place. Example: the series presents a grim, noir-like world where supernatural horrors lurk in the shadows, and happy endings are rare. 10. Snarky demon hunter. Example: Constantine uses sarcasm and wit to mask his pain, even when facing terrifying supernatural threats. 11. Magic is real. Example: while most people live unaware of the supernatural, Constantine knows that magic, demons, and curses are very real. 12. The hellbound hero. Example: Constantine has already sold his soul multiple times and constantly struggles to find a way to escape eternal damnation. 13. Deal with the devil. Example: Constantine frequently bargains with demons and supernatural beings, making dangerous deals to save lives or gain an advantage. 14. Angels are not always good. Example: the angel Mani watches over Constantine, but is not always helpful, showing that celestial beings have their own agendas. 15. Reluctant sidekicks. Example: Zed Martin and Chaz Chandler assist Constantine, but their involvement in the supernatural world often brings them suffering. 16. Cursed objects. Example: the mill house where Constantine stays is filled with supernatural relics, each with a dark history. 17. Supernatural underground. Example: there's an entire hidden world of demons, warlocks, and supernatural beings that Constantine interacts with regularly. 18. Dark and troubled past. Example: Constantine's past mistakes, including the people he's lost, weigh heavily on him and shape his reckless personality. 19. Exorcism as a weapon. Example: Constantine frequently performs exorcisms, using ancient rites to banish demons from possessed individuals. 20. Evil is always one step ahead. Example: no matter how hard Constantine fights, dark forces are constantly rising, proving that the battle between good and evil is never truly won. Constantine delivers a gritty, supernatural noir experience that captures the essence of the Hellblazer comics. Though short-lived, the series remains a cult favorite due to Matt Ryan's portrayal of John Constantine and its dark, supernatural storytelling. Here's some key themes and symbols from the series. Themes in Constantine: redemption and damnation. John Constantine is a man seeking redemption while knowing he is damned. His struggle highlights the tension between past sins and the hope for salvation. The battle between good and evil. The series explores the eternal war between angels and demons, showing how morality is often gray rather than black and white. Faith versus skepticism. Constantine is both a believer and a cynic, embodying the struggle between faith and doubt in the supernatural world. The burden of knowledge. John's deep understanding of the occult is both a weapon and a curse, forcing him into conflicts he cannot ignore. Sacrifice and consequences. Every victory comes at a cost, often involving personal losses, reinforcing the idea that fighting darkness requires sacrifice. Symbols in Constantine. The trench coat and cigarettes. His signature look represents his defiance, weariness, and self-destructive tendencies. The sigils and occult symbols. These markings signify Constantine's mastery of magic and his constant battle to keep supernatural forces at bay. The rising darkness. A metaphor for the chaos of unchecked evil and humanity's struggle against malevolent forces. Hellblazer Comics influence. Many elements of the show reference the Hellblazer comic series, keeping its themes of moral ambiguity and supernatural horror alive. Conclusion. Constantine, 2014 to 2015, delves into dark supernatural themes, exploring redemption, faith, and the cost of battling evil. Through its rich symbolism and John Constantine's morally complex character, the series captures the essence of the occult detective genre while questioning the nature of salvation and damnation. Though short-lived, it remains a cult favorite for fans of supernatural horror and anti-hero narratives. Here's some key characters from the series. John Constantine, Matt Ryan. John Constantine is portrayed as an enigmatic and irreverent conman turned reluctant supernatural detective, who is thrust into the role of defending ordinary people against dark forces from beyond. His character embodies the archetype of the anti-hero, displaying a complex mix of cynicism, wit, and a deep-seated sense of guilt over past failures. Despite his abrasive exterior, Constantine is driven by a desire to protect humanity from malevolent supernatural entities, even at great personal cost. Manny, Harold Perrineau. Manny is an angel assigned to watch over Constantine, often appearing at critical moments to offer guidance or cryptic warnings. His motivations are initially unclear, leading to a dynamic where he serves both as a conscience and an enigmatic presence in Constantine's life. The interactions between Manny and Constantine provide insight into the celestial politics at play and highlight the tension between divine mandates and human free will. Zed Martin, Angelica Celaya. Zed is a young woman with psychic abilities who becomes an ally to Constantine. Her visions and determination to understand her powers make her a valuable asset in combating supernatural threats. Zed's journey of self-discovery and her evolving partnership with Constantine add depth to the narrative, exploring themes of destiny, trust, and the burdens of possessing otherworldly gifts. Chaz Chandler, Charles Halford. Chaz is Constantine's loyal friend and driver, possessing an extraordinary ability to survive fatal injuries. His resilience and steadfast support provide a grounding presence amidst the chaos of Constantine's world. Chaz's backstory and the nature of his abilities are gradually revealed, underscoring themes of sacrifice, loyalty, and the human cost of battling supernatural evils. Each character in Constantine contributes to a rich tapestry that explores the complexities of morality, redemption, and the unseen battles between light and darkness. The show's portrayal of these characters offers a nuanced look at the personal struggles inherent in confronting forces beyond human understanding. Here is a detailed overview of the production and design of the series. Production. 1. Development. The series was developed by Daniel Chironi and David S. Goyer, known for their work on the Dark Knight trilogy and Man of Steel. The tone was designed to be darker and more horror-oriented than typical superhero shows, aligning with Hellblazer's mature themes. NBC ordered 13 episodes, but the show was cancelled after one season due to low ratings, despite a strong fan following. 2. Filming locations. Primary shooting took place in Atlanta, Georgia, which provided a mix of urban and rural settings for the show's supernatural mysteries. Several abandoned buildings and eerie natural landscapes were used to create a Gothic horror aesthetic. Soundstages were utilized for key supernatural set pieces. 3. Practical and CGI effects. The show blended practical effects, prosthetics, and CGI to create its supernatural elements. Demonic transformations, exorcisms, and spellcasting were enhanced with digital effects, but maintained a grounded, gritty style. Iconic symbols like Constantine's sigils and magical seals were rendered with glowing energy effects. Design. 1. Production design. Production designer, Dave Blass. The show's design captured a blend of urban decay, mysticism, and supernatural horror. Key set designs. John Constantine's safe house. A central location, filled with occult artifacts, ancient texts, candles, and magical symbols. The Millennium Key map displayed supernatural disturbances worldwide. The aesthetic was dimly lit, cluttered, and aged, reinforcing Constantine's rogue, underground lifestyle. Ritual chambers and demonic lairs. Frequently featured candles, chalk circles, summoning altars, and eerie lighting. Dark tunnels, abandoned churches, and shadowy forests enhanced the horror atmosphere. Hell and supernatural realms. Hell was often represented through desaturated, smoky visuals rather than elaborate sets. The depiction was subtle but effective, often relying on ominous lighting and sound design rather than CGI-heavy landscapes. 2. Costume design. Costume designer, Christine Wadder. Constantine's signature trench coat, loosened tie, and rugged boots stayed faithful to his comic book look. Demons and supernatural entities often wore distressed, torn, and ritualistic garments, enhancing the show's horror tone. 3. Cinematography and lighting. The show had a low-light, shadow-heavy aesthetic to evoke horror and mystery. Cinematographer James Hawkinson, who later worked on The Man in the High Castle, used blue, green, and sepia tones to differentiate the natural and supernatural worlds. 4. Sound and music. Composer, Bear McCreary, The Walking Dead, Battlestar Galactica. The score combined haunting orchestral elements with distorted synths and eerie ambient sounds, reinforcing the dark, supernatural atmosphere. Legacy. Constantine was cancelled after one season, but Matt Ryan's portrayal was widely praised. Ryan later reprised his role in the Arrowverse, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow. The show remains a cult favorite, known for its faithful adaptation of the comics, strong production design, and horror aesthetics.
So here are my personal insights and interpretations of the series, including favorite moments, themes, and characters. So the very first episode is titled Non Est Asylum. John is introduced as a very unscrupulous exorcist, right? Master of the dark arts. And he is in a mental institution, right? Where some weird things are going on, right? And yet he was kind of ignoring some of the things that was going on, right? He gets a warning from one of the mental patients who was supernaturally possessed, right? And, he decides that he's going to take that warning and get himself out of the asylum. Now, he speaks to the person who the warning was about, Liv Aberdeen, and he gives her a pendant that would have belonged to her father, right? She's able to see the trapped souls, and this would have led to her being very afraid. Imagine you're in a situation where you have never been in, you're new to the situation, and all of a sudden you're called upon to do some stuff, right? Some very psychic-y, mystical stuff, right? He teaches her how to scry, and it's basically a way to find out where demonic activity is occurring on a map, right? Now, in find out, say,
that she's being stalked by a demon called Percival, and him try to get the help from one of him, a friend named Richie Simpson, one hacker, right, who had assisted him in a previous failed exorcism. And we'll talk about that later on. So together they are able to trap Percival and send him back to hell. Now, Simpson convinced Aberdeen now for say, stay away from Constantine because a big things are going on with Constantine and you don't really want to be a part of his world, right? And she eventually decides that she'll leave. She leave the pendant and the map, right? So he would be able to see all of the different activities going on, right? So that means that she really intended to continue his work. So him accept the help to work with the angel named Manny, right? Who has been basically like a guide. And we'll see more and hear more about this one as I go on. Otherwise, now at the end of the episode, we see where one female artist, she start make some drawings of Constantine, right? We she says a female from behind, but we don't get to see her face yet, right? But we'll get to be introduced to her later on in subsequent episodes. Episode 2, The Darkness Beneath. So, in this episode, Constantine investigates a Pennsylvania mining town where a vengeful spirit is killing workers. Now, after John has been using the scrying map, he's able to find that there's a threat in a small town in Pennsylvania, and he goes there now to find out that workers in that mine experience some scary sounds and vibration and digging. So, what I like about this episode was that in the initial opening sequence, we saw where a miner came home to his wife, and the two of them kind of had this kind of argument kind of thing, because he was like, I come home and I want my food, and it's like, she said, all right, man, go deal with it, but the way I deal with the wife is almost like, and then after that, him go to the bathroom for take a shower, for bathe off the coal off him and everything, and in the shower, he's attacked by the spirit that basically, set him on fire. Can you imagine fire coming out of the shower that you expect water to be coming out of? So, that mystical thing of using the polar opposite of what you would expect to cause some real harm and danger. So he is dead, of course. So when John arrived now, he basically buck up in a Zed, right? And we would have realized, because John was evil, pointing out the fact that, hey, this is not chance coincidence that you buck up in a mina. You just, what I'm saying? But notice, say, yeah, watch me all along. And, I tell him, say, boy, may have visions, about you and thing, and this is why I'm drawing you. But I'm not really interested right now in terms of what she's pitching towards him. So ignore her, and thing. And he has this way about him where he's like, them kind of old time and, it's like love and, dairy, and he kind of gives that sense of talking to, women that way, and he might behave as if he's the greatest man out there and he's God's gift to women kind of thing, that kind of energy he gives. So, even though she, would have came on like that to him strong, I'm like, yo, no, it ain't that. Just, settle yourself, go about your business, me go about my business. But eventually, because him book up in her again, him decides, say, him gonna go accept our help. Okay? So, he deduces that there is a spirit called a Colina that normally benign spirits of deceased workers, they are forced to killed by a person. So these might be spirits that have been raised and sent on a mission by someone who conjured them. So him become very suspicious initially of one farmer priest who had lost his son in the mine, and he had good reasons to hate the whole idea of having the mine being operated. So, and then he had suspicions, or pointed to the fact, say, the man who is in charge of the mine was also a part of it, right? And then afterwards, he would have, realized, honor him because him confront the man and him, they get wiped out too, right? The priest also get found innocent after, he talked to him and him realized, why, there is someone who has not been put on the list of suspects, and that is the person who is closest to one of the miners, right? So John say, I figure stop people from actually use the mine or even working in the mine. So him set some explosives inside, right? And him even made the farmer priest do the honors of detonating it, right? So, him can basically put to rest all of this, feeling and thing. So when John had Zed helping him up to this point, so him kind of basically tell Zed to go far away for a while, and him and go confront the person. Basically, and tell her, him, plan to go confront the person who is forcing the spirit, right? And if he had figured out that the wife of the mine foreman, the same one that was killed in the shower with the fire, was the one, right? Because when he had went to the funeral basically and thing, him going at people in their house, See how John dangerous, man, going at people in their house and basically pass, everybody else were in the house, pass whisper in, not supposed to go because they have a sign that says, off limits basically. And gone in a shower, go and go see whisper, things. I might investigate, The wife come in, come see him. And when him see the wife, him notice that she have some coal marks on her hand. You know what I'm saying? And this is at the funeral. Make sure your beard and thing, and and him ask her, why you have them coal mark upon you? And basically she is like, it's all over the house. You can't walk without, it touching it or whatever. So, it kind of set off alarm bells theme from that time there. But it is at this point of the episode we realize, yes, indeed, all of that adds up because she had some serious misgivings about this whole thing with all of this, and she never really interested in her husband anymore after what had happened and thing, right? And she, know that she has been confronted now, she decided for summon the spirit now to come take John, right? So in return now, John almost got dead now and thing. Him summon her husband, right? With a spell. And her husband, coming back as a vengeful spirit, takes her out, right? So when he reached back to his primal stay and thing, see Zed in there, wait for him and thing, and he say, all right, you know what? Fine. Since you're so adamant, let us work together for sure. You know what I'm saying? Without me having to try to look over my shoulder every minute, you can be there to be that person to do that. Episode 3, The Devil's Vinyl. So in this episode, cursed record kills anyone who listens to it, and Constantine races against time to stop it. So in the opening, we see where this lady she finds a record, right? And she takes it to this guy who seems to be like a music producer, you know, somebody in a studio business and thing. And she tell him, say, don't listen to it. It's actually a warning. I say, yo, don't listen to it. You know what I'm saying? And thing. But yeah, you know, curiosity kill the cat. Him listen to it. And this, at first, you know, you hear it sound like one innocent or, you know, not so bad sound in music and voice and thing. And then all of a sudden the voice them start to sound very demonic and so it start tell him to do some stuff and thing, and he may end up kill himself right in front of her, of course. And you'd think that would make anybody scared about what this thing is, but my lady take it and carry it home and put it up in a fair bookshelf where she have other records and things. When she put it up there, everything I turn into ice. It's like, it does cool. It's like, you know, this is one of them literary device that you use in the medium to say, this record is cold as ice. You know? Yeah, anyways. So, John and Zed, them travel to Chicago to investigate the death of, you know, the person who died in the studio. They learn that the record that is known as the acetate frees anyone who touch it, and it possesses the weak mind, right? As a matter of fact, when the lady left, her daughter was there. Her daughter see the record up there, take her time, go up there, because the recorder whisper to you, you know, it's almost like a recorder call you. So you whisper to her and call her, and the little girl take the record out of where it there and take it down and have it. So till she was almost being, you know, possessed and thing. Yeah, so John and Zed now confront the owner, Jasmine, right? They find out that she make a deal with a soul broker 20 years ago for save her husband who was dying from cancer, right? By selling her soul. Yeah, that is what the soul broker does. He brokers the deal between hell and, yeah. So the soul broker now is contacted by Papa Midnight, who is a voodoo priest, and him basically are the boss of the soul broker, and basically him tell him say him need to get back the record. So him go do, him go say him can give back her soul, right? Basically, you know, for break the deal. Now, contact the woman know about it, say, boy, you know, and that's why she say she go get the acetate now for do that, right? So the whole plan was that Papa Midnight, right, would have gotten the acetate, right, because him believes him could use it for him own ends, but I find some way for harness it power for himself, right? And him can probably bargain for him sister trapped and damn soul, right? Which it turns out that he probably had a role to play in that as well. Now, Midnight's mercenaries, them take the acetate from Jasmine, and them, when them take it, them never know how bad it was, right? As a matter of fact, Papa Midnight never realized the power of it, because he should have never sent them to man there, right? And the two man them end up get controlled by the acetate, of course, and them, you know, it wants to be played, basically. So the record wants to be played out loud to everybody. So them take it to a nightclub first, and be things going on at the nightclub. How much people dead, right? Even John and Zed and his Virgin, they dead here. I look and I say, yo, all of this are going on. And then them say, all right, what it I got to do next? Because we need to find the man them, because the man them gone somewhere else, and then gone at one place where them can broadcast it at one radio station. And when they reach this, I know them go in there for go play it and thing. By the time, John able to track them down. And when him reach there, of course, because them start play it and everybody under the influence of it, John have to put in some earplug. When him go in there, him earplug them get knocked out because, be a madness are going in there. And him almost get possessed by it. Papa Midnight, him turn up now with one shotgun. Papa Midnight bust off and, mash up the speaker them where I play the sound outside and, help to cut off the sound and thing. While I think Zed and John accomplice him the outside I try to get the power to the main signal cut so that, it stop broadcast. Now, Constantine now him realized, boy, the only way, because Manny had appeared to him and tell him, say, yo, boy, we have to go do about the acetate, right? Because in John's mind, John was trying to even figure out how he could use it himself, right? Him that try, to think of ways how him could have used it and think for redeem himself, because, him have to redeem himself because of what he did, right? So, at this point, he had a decision to make, and you could have seen it in him, say, boy, the only thing he could have done, right, in this situation, because obviously no one can really control it, and if no one Papa Midnight forget it neither. So, he basically send it back to hell, basically, from where it became, right? So, he exercise it to hell. Papa Midnight swear vengeance upon him, because he must say, yo, after, Ray, and Tay, and thing. Papa Midnight is played by a very good black actor, That guy, he played a lot of nice roles in stuff, but to see him in this as one of those, anti-hero types, it was a difference, and I'm telling you, he does really, really well. Anyways, being a fan for a second there. So, John forced the soul broker to break his original deal with Jasmine, which means that he will have to eat the contract. So, John threatened him and force feed him the contract to save Jasmine's life from our soul, right? But of course, it have to bring back the illness because breaking the deal. That's what it does, right? Yeah. Episode 4, A Feast of Friends. So, an old friend accidentally releases a hunger demon, forcing Constantine to make a hard moral choice. Yeah, this episode, I tell you, Gary Lester, and old friend of John, right? While on a bender, him come across one brother in Sudan, right? Who have some markings with some mystical symbols upon him forehead, which indicates that he contains a demon. He is a container for the demon. Now, this brother, while him there, him drunk in stupor, right? Because that is what basically happened. Him decides that him a go exercise the demon and seal it in our mystical container with the intention of bringing it to John, right? However, when you reach a U.S. Customs Service, right, and I go through U.S. Customs, and say them love to dig you up, when you go through Customs. Dig him up and find this thing upon him. And then I wonder what is it and why him can't, he can't open it and show them. And I said, don't open it. And tell man, don't open it. Man, open it. And of course, the demon is released and it possesses the customs worker, right? The security guy. Right? Security guy start act very, very strange to people and think him go consume, because this demon is just all about consumption, and it consumes until the body of the host dies. So that happens multiple times with different persons. John now, when it comes to John and thing, him identify the hunger demon as Memnop. Now, Zed sketches some symbols, right, from our latest vision, and John realized him can use them against Memnon, right? Now, Gary did have chance now to talk to Zed. Because many times, Zed seems to be the one who will sit down and, try to understand a situation and thing. Because John now go up now time for, or more time, him now take the time for sit down and tell people nothing, him just do what him do, right? But Zed is able to sit down with Gary and him tell her the story of how him and John, when they were at Newcastle, that failed exorcism where they tried to help the girls, but instead they end up damning her to hell, right? Yeah. So him tell a different side of the story as well, where we get to realize that he was not alone. It's not like John was alone. John was with, other persons there and stuff, and this would have been the case, So John got to one-eye bridging now named Nomo, and they use some psychotropics, drugs, basically, to learn that it was a shaman in Sudan who had originally trapped the hunger demon into the boy, right, who would have died. So from this, John realized that the only way to deal with this demon is to confine it in another vessel, right? And he talked to Gary, and because I guess Gary wants to impress John, he agrees, right? And he see this as an opportunity for atone for all of the things that he has done, right? And even giving him life meaning, right? Of course, Zed doesn't know about this, which is very important because after the ritual succeeds, John takes Gary to the mill house and, Zed asks him why him allow Gary to do it, right? And, why, if did know, say, him not gonna make Gary do it, it's almost like him say, yeah, manipulate Gary into doing it. But yes, that was part of John's plan, but he didn't realize that Gary would want to do it because this was his chance to atone for what he was doing. When John put him in the mill house for them there, and basically hold him hand while the demon tortures and kills Gary. I mean, it was really touching to see John really dig into his emotional well in that way, right? And then even money stands ready to guide Gary's soul to the afterlife. Now, episode 5, Dan's Voodoo. So in this episode, Constantine, Zed, and Papa Midnight investigate spirits terrorizing New Orleans. Yes, you heard right. After Papa Midnight say him done with John and he basically have a writ against John, he end up a team up with him now. Who would have seen it, right? Many of us fans would have seen it. We know how things go in these series, right? Things can flip. So, how does this happen? So, one detective end up going on one alley one night, and him come across one girl and go through the so walk and thing, and then one another woman, masked woman, from the shadows she comes, and she killed the woman right in front of him, and him couldn't do anything. Him shoot the gun like a blank him and shoot at the woman, and she doesn't seem to be fazed in any way. So of course, John, Chaz, that's the name I'm trying to remember, and Zed arrive, and they get to ask, about this killing and thing. And initially, Jim is very skeptical about what John is telling him and thing. So him take John, in for questioning even more, interrogation, basically, kind of say, yo, you could not be for real, because, all of this don't make no sense to me, right? Even though this don't make no sense, what you are telling me not make even a lick of sense. So when John realizing, say, boy, this is a ghost and thing, but at the same time, another ghost, right? This one belonging to a teenage boy appears on a deserted road in the middle of nowhere, right? I try hitch a ride to town, right? When he hitch a ride to town with this guy, right? This guy, the kind of come on to the little youth like a weird, may I say? Like he's a pedophile kind of thing. But the youth vanish before him could do anything and him end up crashing a no one tree because, you know, he's a ghost. Right? Kill the driver, of course. So John get to find out, say, oh, there are something common between these two ghosts, right? Because some other circumstances coming up, you realize, say, a Papa Midnight, right? Because Papa Midnight, what his service is, him go to people and basically allow them, right? At least him think, him allow them to contact their dead loved ones. And who wouldn't love to be able to talk to them dead loved ones? I would. And him basically do that, but not knowing the consequences of doing that. Him pass in place and cause them to actually come back into reality. And so the connection hasn't been severed after him, you know, after that. And so some of them still are see the ghost them and thing. And as you know, I would have told about the other two ghosts, they were going on a rampage, basically killing people. Right? Oh yeah, there was one of them that this woman, she basically, you know, realized, say, the man that they know with her, and him basically come back and then almost in, you know, the living, but because he's there, basically I sap her energy, causing her to slowly waste away and die, right? Which is something that we would be familiar with. If you have been listening to this podcast for some time now, you'd know that I did a episode on the Sandman, and in the Sandman, Constantine is referenced in a different universe kind of thing, because it's a female version, Joanna Constantine, where there is another person who is wasting away because of a dead loved one. Anyways, back to this podcast episode and this specific series that I'm speaking of. Right. So Papa Midnight, after John confront him about the fact, say, but revive the ghost them, you know, Papa Midnight refused to have John's help initially. Because he must say, yo, man, I need your help. Man, a boss. Me know how to work all of the spell them and all of the voodoo. So, what you gonna tell me you was an amateur compared to me? That's how Papa Midnight look at it. But then, after him see, say the woman a waste way now in her home with her dead husband. Him say, you know what, John, me need your help. Now, there's a funny little thing that happens here, because when John did come to him, he actually knock out John, have him man knock out John and put John in the back of him car, right? In the trunk of the car. And while he went in to see the woman, John escaped from the truck, right? And took the driver, put him in the truck and sit down there at the front of the car. So when him come in and sit down, he's like, all right, pop the trunk, I need to talk to this guy. And the man's like, John just turned around and said, well, what you want to talk to me about? I mean, that was so funny. I have to just highlight that part. Yeah. So decide to work together now, right? John agrees, but him have a stipulation. Him say, in exchange, I want you ask your sister who has been damned, right, for information about what is happening with all of these darkness and stuff that we are seeing. And he reluctantly agree, because boy, it does seem like the wickedest thing him could tell him, because like Papa Midnight sound like him would have give him money or would have give him anything else. But at that point, when he asked about talking to him systems, like, yo, you're gone too far now. Anyways, so them, work on a plan. Them believe that basically going for the people, them dead body, right? Going, robbing the grave basically and burning the bodies would release the spirits, right? Alone. That's the only thing they thought would work. But that doesn't work. So, after them did them get around the body, this is another funny thing. They get around the body, two of them, Papa Midnight and John, and the two of them are sing and a chant and do all of the Spiritus Santos and nothing, right? And the two of them are blame one another. Papa Midnight I said to John, say, yo, I be kind of respect the gods, them man. And John is like, yo, I don't need to respect them. I just need to just know how this work and why it not work. And then John, kind of cluing on something and he realized that maybe what we need is we also need the people who were involved, the ones who were living, that those persons need to be there. So them gather the people, them make a phone call and people them come, right? And while they're there and, try to get them to basically relinquish their, all of the pain or the emotion that they have about the person's death and thing, to ensure that it works this time. And of course, it works. After they're able to do that, all the ghosts them start to disappear and thing, right? So back to you detective now and Zed. Well, after them, she said the youth, because they were on a stakeout together, ensure so the ghosts of the youth were go around and ask hitchhiking. Them did here and thing, attack and thing, and he might tell her, say, he basically know who she is, because she hasn't really told John who she is, but we know that she has some kind of past, right? And thing. And when him take her hand and kiss it, she sees a vision, because, she's able to do that, tactile. She's tactile, so as soon as you touch her or she's in contact, she's able to get these visions. So she gets a vision of him dying, covered in blood, right? So, I mean, it's very gross and stuff, right? Yeah. Now, Papa Midnight, he has to put his foot forward in contacting his sister, because remember, he has a deal with John. So, him whisper to her and thing, and she tells him that there is more coming, right? Which Papa Midnight communicates to John, right? And it will involve the betrayal of someone close to him. So, right, you don't say it's either Chaz or Zed, right? Yeah, Chaz, that guy, right? Episode 6, Rage of Caliban. Now, in this episode, a child becomes possessed by a violent spirit, forcing Constantine to find a non-lethal way to save him. Yeah, this was a serious one, right? Because it really takes you out of it. Because John and Chaz, them arrive in a Birmingham, right, to investigate some murders, right, in which both parents are thus violently killed, leaving only the child unharmed. You know what I'm saying? Now, John now determined, say, he must chase the spirit, right, of a boy who was murdered by his abusive parents. Yeah. So you see why this episode is. Now, he has been repeating this pattern of violence through possessing other children for decades, So, him trapped the spirit to its current host. One little boy who him a try to convince him parents them that him can help, right? So him go there one at a time as a guidance counselor from school. But the father never believe him, especially when the fact say he go in there and talk to the, to the spirit and thing or whatever, and throw him out basically, As a matter of fact, in call police man, him and he end up in a jail and him have to come. The mother end up has to be the one who go and bail him out. Right. So because she realized say our son is not the same, not the same little boy. And she realized, John basically right about some of the things them, right? So while John in a jail, money, I talk to John about him on a childhood, right? And I suggest to him that, him help the possessed boy and the spirit if him really can understand their suffering. So at that moment now, John would have another eureka moment where he realized, say, boy, the reason why him can't get to exercise the spirit are because there is no dead body, is actually a living person. So with the help of the boy's mother, John is able to succeed in exercising the spirit, right? And enforce the spirit back into its original body, right? Which is an big man where in catatonic, I'm a mental patient, right? And, at the end we see where the mafia restrain him because, now that him active again, his spirit is back in his body. Yeah, he's now a child in a man's body, right? And you can imagine how that might feel. Episode 7. Blessed are the damned. So, a preacher gains the ability to heal people, but it's a terrible cost. So, one preacher over there at Kentucky named Zachary, him gained the power of healing after he seemed to have been revived following being bitten by a venomous snake, right? So, believing the power to be somehow to be evil, Constantine and Zed got to Kentucky, right? I nearly said Kentucky like Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm sorry. Kentucky, right? And my Jamaican people know what I mean when I say Kentucky. And them learned say that the first person that Zachary healed, him start to attack and kill people, right? So we basically see where he heal the man and grow back a man's foot basically because the man had a severed limb, the foot severed, and it just grow back, right? Can him heal it. The man go doctor, when he go doctor take x-ray and a test it and, check it with him with all in tools and thing, and he must say, boy, I have nothing to say but to say, boy, your limb is there. You tell me that you didn't have a limb before and there it is. And then right then and there, the guy seems to just change his mind, him fall over, when somebody possessed, and the man didn't kill the doctor and, walk out of the place and start act like a beast, basically, right? Yeah. So here, some things are going on with the place, like the place off, like something in the air, is terrifying. And John and Zed, them there talk about the fact say, something not too right and thing and whatever. Zachary would have been whistling something and, making some sounds while he was in I would say, in that state of speaking in tongues. And so, John said, just remind me what it is that he was saying, how it did sound. And she started kind of hum it and thing, and then him start to hear it, and it sound like it's somewhere close in the air, I might hear it on the wind. And them go and find one wounded angel, right? The angel identify herself as naming Imogen, right? And it's, at first Zed is able to see, right? Because Zed can't see money when money manifests in front of John. So when she sees, she's amazed, obviously, and the two of them help to take Imogen to somewhere safe, and John, notes say, boy, if this happened, basically, evil not too far behind if it's one of the heavenly angels, them, right? However, John was able to put a barrier spell around the location where she is and things. So until they can figure out a way to get the feather back from Zachary, because apparently Zachary, when him dad dead and she appeared to him pull out her feather. That is the story, basically. That's what Imogen said to them. But after confronting Zachary, realized that he wasn't the best guy. And so it not seem like, wow, would that make sense? And then, on top of it, the way how him deal with things, I feel wonder if it's, if him really bound for heaven for true, right? So eventually, John and Zed and find a way to trick Zachary, right? Which is to have Zed be one of the persons who want to be baptized by Zachary. And Zachary goes to a river for go baptize, and as him baptize her, so she just snatch the feather from off him. And he might try to get it back from her. But of course, the feather's powers, once, a mortal has it, that mortal control it in terms of, any danger and thing. So he couldn't get it back from her. So he tells Zed to go back, because at that point, even the beast thing was after them. Everybody who was healed by Zachary was after the feather, right? Now, Zed reached back at the place and give back Imogen the feather. And the whole time, Manny would have been there with Imogen. Of course, Zed still can't see. And it was in the latter part that Manny now find out, say, Imogen isn't a heavenly angel. Because it's not like them know one another, but a fallen one. And that she was the one who actually was at hell's gate, basically, waiting for Zachary, but came up with a plan for give feather to him, basically, right? For take the form where she can, so that she can come into the earth and become a corporeal being, so she can manifest. So after she get the feather back, of course, she get back her strength and her power. She able to fly and all of that now. So she decides she got to fly out of there now. But the John would have put up a protection spell around, and that barrier protects from evil penetrating it. So of course, being evil, she's stuck in there. Now, she say to John, say, if you don't release me, I'm going to kill Zed. Because she holds Zed now as hostage, basically, ready to take out Zed. And John, I said to Manny, say, yo, don't make she dead, because I can't do anything, and I don't really want to release her and whatever. And Manny said, I can't do anything. But then Manny, surprisingly, him switch places, because he's able to switch places with human beings. Him, can become that human being for a split second. So he switch places with her, and being close to her, he's able to kill her by removing her heart. And him tell John, say, to put up as one of the collection at the mill house, right? Because it's pure concentrated evil and you don't want that to fall in the wrong hands. Now, of course, after what Manny did, he basically I tell John, say, After what I do basically, I go get some punishment, but if this can happen, that means that the barrier between hell and earth has become thinner due to the rising darkness. So we have to look out. Yeah, this is a serious one, guys. We'll be right back after these messages. This podcast contains discussions of violent content that may be disturbing or triggering to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only and do not reflect those of the podcast creators. If you or someone you know is struggling, please seek help from a trusted professional or resource. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help it grow, I'd love your support. Since it's not monetized, my main goal is to connect with more listeners who share a passion for sci-fi. Please share the podcast with friends or colleagues who might enjoy it. And don't forget to leave a comment. Your support and feedback makes a big difference and keep the content coming. Episode 8, The Saint of Last Resorts, Part 1. So, in this episode, a demon kidnaps babies in Mexico, leading Constantine to confront an ancient evil. Yes, so in this episode, we're introduced to John's previous girlfriend. Yes, Anne-Marie, who is a nun now. And at present, she is one of the infamous Newcastle exorcists, right? So she would have been there at the time as well when things were going on, right? Now, she convinces Constantine to come to Mexico City to stop an unknown entity that has kidnapped a baby, right? After the entity kidnaps another baby from the same family, right? It is revealed to be a granddaughter of Hugo, right? Brother of Anne-Marie, right? Now, John uses magic to expose the cover of the culprit, which he finds out is another nun, right? So would have seen that the baby was there in the crib, right? And we see the nun, claws and everything and whatever, take the baby. Now, another nun revealed to be, the late, right? So this nun is one of the biblical creation Eve's sisters, right? So her name in this is Lamatsu. Now, John and Anne, they would have pursued Lamatsu into the sewer beneath the convent, right? In order to find where the other babies are. And it's funny what they had to do. They had to basically use the blood of the family to inject it into one chicken. I mean, the chicken, right? So how the trick are now is that forget the chicken and take it back to our hideout. John used a spell, him call it a glamour spell, basically, to make it look like a baby to her. So she pick it up, she think it's a baby, and she take it right back to the swan. So they are able to follow her to where it is. And they discover that the other missing babies are there and they are alive and stuff, which would have been revealed in the fact that they realized that usually Lamatsu would have come after the baby and eat the baby. But after John find out, say that there is a placenta buried in the yard outside under a tree, they go to dig it up and then they realize, say, something funny about the tree. So he takes one of the fruits off of the tree and him feel it and he realize that it's human skin. And when he cut into it, the whole tree start bleed. So he was able to deduce that the babies are alive, right? Which is something rare or should not really happen, because if Lamatsu has the baby, usually they come to feast on the baby. The Eve sisters would come to feed on the baby. So little after that, now John decide to figure out which one of the nun them is Lamatsu, and by using a spell on the fountain, and the fountain almost was about to reveal who it was, and the nun come. She show up, and she try to get John away from the fountain because she know exactly what he's trying to do. And John realized that she had tried to do so. Him, confront her openly and thing, and it turns into a confrontation, and she revealed herself as, a monster and whatever. Anyways, after that, it would have been where they would have set up all of that to be able to go to the sewer, right? Because they would have found out, said that. But they would have found out that the brewery, which is some crazy warlocks, right, who have been around for ages, seem to be responsible for the rising darkness. And after John questions Lamatsu and find out that the reason why they are doing this is because they want to be able to have supremacy over the earth. So them can, basically flip earth and hell. So basically everything in hell can come to earth and all humanity will be at stake, basically. So John uses Pazuzu to banish Lamatsu, but little after them are trying to escape now with the baby them, they are confronted by one Invulge, which is another monster, I guess, that it's a demonic monster and you can't outrun it. That's what John says. So, quick thinking of Anne, she sacrifices John by shooting him, right? And leaving him behind so that she and the infant can escape. When all of this that go on, Zed have fear own a problem because the people them where I look for Zed, them catch up to her and them send somebody for basically, trick her into coming back and thing. But she figure out say the person wasn't genuine and thing, and she decides if to carry him back to the mill house and basically, interrogate him to find out what he's all about and what is what. So we get to find out, say, she actually is being called Mary, and that it is her father who has sent these henchmen, right? So some more henchmen show up too. Forgot to tell you about that part. They show up and them try to capture them, kill one of the women already there with them that she would have been interrogating and had captive, and one of them was able to catch her. That is after she took another one to fall out in the void. There's like this room where it's like a total black pitch void looking kind of place. Yeah. So that episode was a thing. Episode 9. The Saint of Last Resorts, Part 2. So, mortally wounded, John lets a demon possess him to survive. So, the demon Pazuzu, him invite him into his body, right? That helps to drive away the invent. So, it doesn't kill him, right? And the demon heals his wounds. Now, Zed has a vision of Anne, and she would have been knocked out in the last episode, and now she awakens to find herself in the back of a van on the way to her father, right? She, because she's awake now and they want to put her back to sleep, the guy come out of the vehicle and open up the back of the vehicle, only for she jump up on him and choke him with the same injection he go him to go joke her with. Yeah. Now, John tell Chaz say, Muffy help him for exercise Pazuzu or backup plan kill him, right? To ensure that Pazuzu doesn't take full control of his body and escape, right? Yeah, and them have them short on time. He feels that it might take a couple of days for his body to be taken over fully and stuff. When Chaz confront him about the idea of him killing him, the demon takes over John's body and pushes away Chaz and runs away. End up kill some people from one gang, and when John awakens in the middle of the scene of dead bodies around him, police was on the scene and they take him into prison. So now John end up in a prison, so them have to go find some way to either get him out and exorcise the demon, or they have to find something to do. So the plan is hatched to have Anne locate John, because Chaz wouldn't have known where she gone. So him and Zed, they convince Anne, and Chaz cause a diversion at the prison, allowing Zed to walk in, but he end up being arrested too. So yeah, he got to go in as well. And by their surprise, Anne comes to John's help, to help with the exorcism and things. So, pretending to minister to the prisoners and thing. So all of them, they now find one place to exorcise the demon, but another demon shows up and basically ruins the party, Things never go well anyways, right? So after Chaz gets wounded again, mortally wounded again, and he's not gonna die, Zed leaves the prison and stays back to watch over John's body, right? Because he was possessed, but he was tied down and stuff. So they decide to find a way now to get John out of prison, which is to jug him up, right? To make sure to slow down the demon, because the only other way they can be able to exercise the demon is to take John back to the mill house. So jug up John and they're able to get him back to the mill house, right? So that them can exercise the demon. As John is about to be taken over fully by the demon, he asks Anne to perform the exorcism now, and doesn't have much confidence in her abilities to that, or even herself, because after what happened at Newcastle, everybody had carried like a burden from that one little thing that was happening, But he reassures her, say, are you more it, because, you're the best person to do it anyways. And, she'd have up her excuse, she's not a priest, and there's usually priests do them thing here and thing. But she agrees reluctantly. She then warns everyone that Chaz and Zed say, if you see the demon start to frail up and start use your weaknesses against you, it's not John, right? Just ignore it. And of course, the demon frail up and start tell them about all sort of things about themselves to make them, feel bad about themselves. And even Anne is attacked. And Anne, feeling attacked, she started to flounder in her, control of the situation, and the demons start get much more powerful and thing, because, she losing faith in herself. And Zed would have had a vision about Anne, and she reminds Anne what it is that is holding her back, and thought that it was her forgiveness of John. And she said, but I forgive John already still, so why? And I said, no, the reason why is that you have not forgiven yourself about what has happened, from, how John turned out and all of that. So after she realizing that, no, and she come to that realization, she get much more confident in herself, and she's able to finish the exorcism, saving John's life and his soul. Woohoo! Yeah. Before she leaves to tell and say, yo, you need to tell John what go on, about your life. Make him know what. And at the end, we see where John basically told them, say, what you witness at the convent in Mexico, it much worse. Things are much, much worse, especially where it concerns the brew people them people there. Yeah. The warlock people there. Yeah, man. Episode 10. Quid pro quo. So Chaz's daughter is cursed, forcing Constantine to confront a dark sorcerer. So this episode is interested in the fact that Constantine comes across a sorcerer of his or a greater caliber than him. The sorcerer would have described John as having just stumbled into some of his magic and some of his spells, while, he would have been like an ardent student of the dark arts, right? So how this episode go now is like we see like a flashback where John would have cast a spell on Chaz when they probably just started working together to keep him safe from harm because he was drunk the night. Not knowing that that spell would cause Chaz to be able to take on new life, literally being able to. So that's why he has the powers to be able to not die, right? He can be revived 47 times because he has 47 souls, basically. That's what their explanation is, right? So in the present now, we'll get to see that there is like a epidemic that is happening in Brooklyn, and John and Zed, they would have seen that on the map, and so they would have gone there. At the same time, Chaz would have gone to meet with his daughter because he has, some father and daughter time every weekend, I guess. And so he, was going there when this happened, right? And when his daughter is caught up in it as one of the souls that the dark sorcerer would have done, right? Zed finally opened up to John about the fact, say, the Resurrection Brigade, that's the fanatical religious group that wants to use her powers for their own ends. So when John and Zed reach Brooklyn now and thing, and they would have heard from Chaz, say, boy, yo, something not go on, because my daughter, they're in a hospital, so they have to go immediately to the hospital. So them start to try figure out what the situation could be, how this could be happening, and, where Chaz's daughter's soul would have gone. So John enlists the help of a medium that he knows, right? Poor medium. He never know him that get into. He tries to contact Chaz's daughter, and in that way, the sorcerer, right, Felix, he would have realized that they might try to contact him, and he used a spell to basically burn the man to a crisp, right, killing the medium. But at least John was able to figure out from the spell that was used that it would have been a type of sorcerer that is of a certain caliber, right? It would be a sorcerer that is studied in the black arts, the dark arts. No. Zed uses her skills as well to try and find out where in the city this dark sorcerer could be operating from. And then she'd be able to come up with a location based on what she's seeing in the environment that he would be. And again, the dark sorcerer would be able to realize that someone is trying to find where he is and, stop her from revealing too much. But they got enough that they were able to lock it down to a particular location, a warehouse. And when they get there, they don't really see much. But John reassures Chaz and Zed that there might be some magic that used to conceal, the actual location, which there was. And he was able to lift that magic spell in order to reveal the actual location. So they go inside, and when they go inside, they're confronted by Felix Faust, which John immediately recognizes, and him tell him, say, him have the soul in one thing, and him have the power in one thing. And immediately John realized that, if you have that much power, that means, say, you see me? I basically have to do what you say right now. So what Felix wants from John is for him to banish a demon that is pretty much, taking up some of the souls that Felix wants. So John reluctantly agrees with the strong protest of Chaz, because him not really into the, playing game with him. Just feel like, say, John should just go ahead and have the stuff. John end up going to get the demon, but him never really banish it to hell, and so Felix changed the agreement and, say, boy, we're not going to do nothing, basically. But you have to do something new now in order for me to think there. So, then basically I agree on that. But Chaz, again, strong protest, boy, me not think, say, try to do what you need to do, because if you were doing it, you would be able to say, no, or, you'd have find some other way to get this thing done. Such as decide to use a resurrection ability, the fact that him have all of these souls, to bargain with Felix. But it's a guise, because he's used that now to get close to Felix, right? And him try to have Felix and him shake hand, and Felix is like, only mages do that. It's almost like if I say, you're not nothing really. Only mages will do that kind of handshake, and thing. What him say? Yeah, I'm still sick of your handshaking as part of the deal. Him did knock out John, actually. So John did outside, and then John did in the car, in the taxi, and wait and thing. Him awake now, just as Chaz agree, and him said, don't give away your life, Chaz, and thing. Let's, and thing. But he never know, say, Chaz have a plan, because the same Achilles whip thing that John had showed earlier on in the episode, him use it for Felix, and basically does, hold him, so him can't perform no spell, and then him detonate one bomb and grenade where, kill them both, right? And of course, Chaz are gonna get revived, so get revived little afterwards, and then he go meet up back with him family, right? Because killing the dark sorcerer would have, stopped the magic, so, reversed everything, so they'll be able to get back him daughter. Yeah. And then something curious happens at the end of the episode, where Zed seemingly awakes out of a coma-like state, because she would have tried to help Renee, that's Chaz's ex, right, to try and contact Geraldine, But while she was doing that, it seems that it was too much for her, and it would have knocked her out and stuff. So now she awakens to tell John, say boy, whatever, and then seemingly half asleep, she tell him say that his mother say that it was not his fault, that her death was not his fault, and the episode ends there.
Episode 11, A Whole World Out There. So in this episode, a supernatural experiment goes wrong at a university. Yeah. So Richie Simpson, who we would have met a couple of episodes previous, his students got a hold of a book that he had in his possession, and that book was basically an instruction guide on how to send their souls to a dimension. The book was written by a Jacob Shaw who mysteriously disappeared, right? Now, when them reaching the dimension now, Jacob Shaw attacks them, right? And he basically knock off each one of the students them, except for one who he almost got, right? So three of them basically died, in the real world. So in that dimension, they were stuck there. Their souls were stuck over there. Some gruesome way. It's like the man coming like some weird serial killer, basically, right? And he basically would have taunted them to come into his dimension, So whenever they look into a reflective surface, whether it be a mirror or even a TV screen or their phone, they would have been captured basically and, pulled into his dimension because they have been there before. So basically, yeah, the door is open to them. So Jacob would, as I said, he would have been there, from when he was missing, him gone mad basically, doing all sort of weird stuff with the people them over there. And he's able to cause changes and effects in the dimension so he can make it what he wants. He basically call himself a god of the dimension, basically. Right? So when the last student who would have been, caught upon before she get taken over into the safe house, they took her, and while she was in the safe house, her cell phone reflection causes her to be dragged into Jacob's world. Isn't that crazy, right? So John and Richie, right? Because, a Richie fault and, John try to help out Richie and thing, basically say, all right, we going definitely have to go into that dimension and thing. Richie, he doesn't want to have no part in this, none at all. From the beginning, him does say, yo, even when John showed up at the university, he was like, yo, bro, where you there, do? Yo, this is my territory, really. You can't be coming around me, man. You know what I'm saying? And him say, yo, all right, where you are? And, get to find out, say, John was coming there because he basically found out that these things were happening, stuff were happening there. So when them reaching a dimension now, right? They perform the ritual and then pass over into the dimension. Richie and John realize, say, Richie has a skill to be able to reshape the reality. He has his mind is as strong as Jacob Shaw's, so he's able to warp the reality how he wants. So John encourages Richie to use these skills to help them defeat Jacob, right? So they're able to, defeat Jacob. There's a confrontation, of course, where Jacob basically, reveal himself to them and thing, and almost got John and Richie, but because Richie is strong, his mind is strong, he's able to
ward off and fend off the attacks that came and basically defeat Jacob and change the reality basically to what he wants. So from a dark reality to a light reality, him letting the sun, him say, a beautiful sunrise, right? And then the sun, this now causes some chain reaction basically in reality. The house begins to collapse, right? And this, the spirit of the dead students, they help to, save the last student because she really thought that she could save them, but it turns out they saved her. And, Richie starting to believe that, boy, this reality even better than real reality. So why not stay here? And, this is after they send away the other one, the last student. So, especially because of all of the things that are going on, the rising darkness and all them thing there. Who wouldn't want to do that, right? So John, I say, yo, brother, you can't live here. Me know say it difficult, it's painful, but you can't stay here. You need to come. I don't know if it is Richie or John who decides to leave the reality at that point, but John end up come out of the trance first, out of the ritual, and Richie took a little while. I wonder why him that takes so long, whether he was pondering his mind, whatever he was doing, right? He probably was just thinking about staying, right? And then finally chose to come back to reality, right? And even end up coming back to lecture his students because when we saw Richie at the university, he basically was out of touch, even with his students. He had a recording that had his lectures just got you one. He was sitting at the desk just until the recording finished and he must get up and actually talk, right? So and him not even take questions. So now at the end, now we're seeing full circle. He has been transformed by his experience. Him basically say, "Magot, Magot do what he has been neglecting to do, which is to lecture to his students and teach them the way of peace." Yeah. Episode 12, Angels and Ministers of Grace. So in this episode, Zed suffers a life-threatening vision and Constantine must seek angelic intervention. Yep, that's the kind of episode we are at. So Manny, the angel, he realizes that John is using the map as, like a crutch. And so him destroy the map, set it on fire, right? And him tell John, say, him need to go visit one hospital where there's a woman who supposedly died due to an overdose, right? So we saw that this woman would have gone to get some drugs in a particular place, and the guy even tell her, I said, come inside. And she's like, no, I'm going home. And she, on her way home, apparently get seized upon by this figure in black and him put on a smackdown on her and jam the two needle in her chest. So yeah, causing her to overdose, right? So we get to find out it's a mystical entity, right? Of course, John, realizing that something off about all of that and the hospital itself. So Zed, while she's there, trying to connect with the psychics, spirits, and all of that mentalism that she's trying to do, she suffers a seizure and is diagnosed with a brain tumor, right? By this seemingly nice doctor at the time, right? And then after that, the entity starts to kills a staff member. This guy, that just a drink the man a take, the man just take a little time, a little break, and go drink in the broom closet. Only for the something enter the closet and beat him to death. Now, John and Manny have a face off where John get tired of asking Manny to intervene in some angelic way for help, or even to work with him in that sense. So John did have one little plan up his sleeve. He would have this special kind of potion that apparently can make an angelic or spirit become manifests in the real world. So, because Manny usually, when he comes to manifest to John, he usually uses someone's body, right, a human being, and then he can just move out of it if he wants into another body or whatever. John confines him to this body, so he's real and he can experience the wealth of human emotions, right? So when him there now, I work through some of the things. Him asks Manny for basically do some stuff. Cause, a Manny first time actually being human or feeling, the way how humans feel. So him got through all of the things them. He had can I call it a little sexual experience, yeah? Mm-hmm. And, some other little experiences as well, And they found evidence that there is this thing called a black diamond that is involved in this whole thing because it basically turns a person's body into something. It basically makes you, this violent creature, right? So realizing that now, they got you trying to figure out which patient it is. They think it is a patient. But then realize after, checking who it is, they realize it was one of the doctors them. And that doctor would have served in Baghdad, right? And it's only because of Zed too. Even though she did in a hospital, she still helped by, the doctor talking to her, and she would have found out that he, served in Baghdad and things. So they went after him only for him for, just be taken over fully by it now and thing. It, got a basement and him trapped John and Manny. But of course, because Manny is in human form, he has no way of helping John. And up to this point, John would have been lying to Manny, say, yo, may I go? I can't do anything but reversing the spell right now until the time elapses and whatever. So you're stuck in the body. But it turns out at this point now, John really needs money. He decides to undo the spell. Money is like, you could do that all along, So free, but by freeing him, Money is able to come and take the doctor because he should have died when the black diamond touched him, And so takes him, to heaven, I'm guessing. Zed would have been pondering to herself and, about the whole idea that the tumor and her gift or skill seems to be, in the same time frame. So she's wondering if because she knows John has always said that there's a consequence to using magic. There's always a price. And so she's like, boy, may I wonder if the tumor is my price to pay, And she kept asking Manny many times throughout the episode if her gift is from God. And him said to her, basically, you already know that. At the end, he told her, you already know where it come from. Because I'm here, aren't I? That's literally what he says. So she intends to go on and using her powers. Episode 13, Waiting for the Man. Of course, this is the final episode, and it was such a bummer to recognize that this is the final episode, and there wasn't, I didn't get to see the brouhaha, the brouhaha, and we never get to see many things, right? Anyways, let me get into it. Constantine faces a satanic killer, while Papa Midnight sets a bounty on his head. Right? You remember Papa Midnight, him and John, they would have worked together, but at the end of it, he was like, yo, this one we don't drink, that. It's on again, right? We're enemies. So, this man, this pedophile man, him have 3 child bride, right? And him tell him, say, go forth and find me a 4th. Yes, that's the kind of episode it is, guys. They convince a young girl named Vesta to join them, right? And I mean convince, because it's almost like she's spellbound because they might ask her questions and she kind of asks questions and they don't really answer her and she's like, okay, and she just continue giving them stuff and then she just walk away with them. So while the man that they away upon them for take her, right, and him did the outside in, one security guard a pass by and I wonder, why him just park up the same thing and, want check out him to see if everything all right. And him say, yeah, man, everything good, man, or whatever. When you check it out, he murdered the man. So, John enters the fray now, right? John and Zed, them join Jim Corrigan, because it's actually Jim, who you remember from that episode with the woman who would have killed, and there was another youth tonight where they're up on the highway and they kept being picked up, as a hitchhiker and stuff. That episode. Jim, comes back and he's basically asking for John's help now, because them time then did skeptical about John, But at the end of the episode, him did learn, say, boy, respect for John. So, and to a greater extent, we can see that he's very attracted to Zed. And Zed is conflicted because when she would have used her psychic powers, she would have recognized that he was going to die and how gruesome he looked. And she hasn't told him. And she wants to tell him, but she's not sure if she can tell him. Anyways, while John, I look upon one dead body now in the field, Gary, you remember Gary is the guy where Gary Lester, who would have taken in the demonic spirit and he died because of that. He comes back and basically warns John that they set a bounty for him death, right? The brewery, the team now decides that I'm going to look into this murder, and they recognize the 4 kidnapped girls, right, are basically a part of this thing now. So Papa Midnight now, him doing voodoo zombie thingy with one guy, right? Him and the guy that have one falling out with something, and him just use the guy and things. So the guy as a zombie now comes after John and basically, almost, kill John for Zed and Jim. They would have come in and basically help out and thing. And, when John recognized Papa Midnight a come now, right, become send like one crow, right, one of them mystical birds, and tell Zed and Jim to focus on finding the Satanists so him can face off with Papa Midnight alone. And of course, John is able to overpower and knock Papa unconscious just before heading to the Satanist hideout, right? And when he reached there, so a whole heap of things are going because in the meantime, Vesta, that girl that they would have taken, she was in the house and she kept on saying, in here smell really bad, like pink, you know what I'm saying? And you can get the sense out of the episode that, something was off about the girls and the way how they were. Only if you find out, say, the girl them did dead long time, Yeah, man. And basically their spirits were confined to the house and what the man did want them to do. And yeah, him did want basically do the same thing with Vesta. But Vesta kind of catch wise because, she felt off about a lot of stuff. But, because she was just captivated about, I guess, spellbound by things, she did her and things. She ran away from the Satanist man, but him catch up to her and as him forgot take her back now. John catch up to him and Jim and they basically just set her free and thing. Zed take the girl and thing and John, I encourage Jim and say, yo, for murder the man. Yeah. That's the type of episode we're at, right? I mean, like, I didn't see that coming at all. I didn't expect that. And then the fact that Jim did it. Yeah. Well, at least he did it off screen because we only hear him say run and take out him gun and lock it and load it. And then we hear the gunshot in the distance. So we don't know if him literally did shoot him man or window, right? But yeah, we figure more or less say now make the man get away, right? So we pop at midnight now, then and police them arrive and them arrest him. Zed finally decides to tell Jim about her vision of his death, but she also say she doesn't know if she can prevent a vision from happening, and that is the biggest thing that bum her out, right? Like, who would not want to have that power and not want to, So, a funny thing happened at the end of the episode, which is why I'm saying I can't believe this was the final episode. How them could have wicked so. Manny the Angel, you remember him? Good and everything, right? That's what we believe. He frees Papa Midnight and tell Papa Midnight say, he might cancel the bounty upon John. And Papa Midnight I said, who is you basically for do this? And at the brewery I work for, money say, yo, me are the boss for the brewery. And then he flies away. I can't believe they did not renew this for another episode. They did write subsequent scripts for this, because they have one that would have come out later on, right? In the same year, named The Final Girl, right? That's the episode title. But it would have probably aired, but it get cancelled.
So here are my theories about unresolved mysteries or plot points. So some of the things that stand out to me about this series overall is that the way how John carries the burden of failure to keep someone safe. Especially with that episode where it was that kind of thinking kind of got him almost killed, where a former girlfriend would have shot him and then he had to take on a demonic entity in order to survive. Yeah. And this also, shows us that John walks into a situation with a full understanding of what is happening around him, but he doesn't put any thought into showing that. Because many times I wonder, why is it that John in that situation here when he's supposed to be able to see things coming from a mile away? Manny always
seem to be very obfuscated. Him always just stop shy of doing certain things. And even the fact say, you know, the revelation that comes at the end of the series, right, on the final episode, we still have this idea, at least I have that idea, that perhaps it was all for him in his way to guide John along the path, along the route to whatever he wanted him to do. And if they had renewed this for a couple other series, perhaps they would have tell the story even more, right? And I'm aware that there are other films and comic stuff and things, so probably it come out more in those in terms of what Manny's role and what he is and who he is. So don't come for me if you're a fan like that. But just watching this series alone, it just brought me to that conclusion that hey, this is where it is at, that perhaps that is what he's been there doing. That's what he has always been doing. All right. We know Chaz isn't a talkative guy, but the fact that him have that ability makes him a valuable asset to John, right? And we see the way that he keeps John honest and tries to keep John out of too much trouble, right? Because both of them together are trouble in a sense, right? The way how Zed having her ability to read people helps John and even allows him to assess the situation. And I wish we could have seen more of what it is, her background was, literally get to meet her father, right? If, at all, what influences he had on her that was so much that she could come and say, boy, she not going back. She literally said, me never going back to that situation. And, some things that I would have thought about initially before watching the series would have been, why is John so ready to just jump into dangerous situations? And what's the psychic's deal? What's Zed's deal? And what does Manny see in John? So that's it. Share your favorite Constantine moments or theories. Let me know of them in the comments. So in this episode, we looked at Constantine battling demons and walking the line between heaven and hell. And it is such a thin line where Constantine is from. And in a sense, I don't know if it is that because I'm so open to science and open to some of these ideas that I can even look at Constantine being that mystical and supernatural element, having some scientific and skeptical approach to the way he handles certain situations. I don't forget that particular episode where he and Papa Midnight, they had to both do some magic. And John was like, doing his thing, and Papa Midnight was, there saying, yeah, may I go make sure I say, me put myself in this situation. And he was basically pleading to the gods because he believes in them that way. And John, was like, me just want to borrow what you deal with. And the way how he deals with money, right? That even Zed would have to say, why is it that you who seem to just not be so faithful in that sense, you're not like a person who would just say, boy, you just believe because you believe. but John has actual experience with magic. He lives in a world of magic. He can conjure something and he can put things out there that, reality bending things, right? And this is similar to what I would have said about the Sandman, obviously because they're from the same universe, comic book origins and so on. So it tells you a lot about the way how these anti-heroes, right? Because they're not necessarily the traditional hero where they are just there for justice, but they are the type that will take on that bad mentality. The fact that, Constantine is a chain smoker, right? And even in the series, even though they toned him down because they didn't want to send the wrong message, there was still him in there at times doing that. And it shows that, he's not defined by who he is, but what he does and how he accomplishes things at the end of the day. Constantine realizes that enough people not gonna like him, right? And we see that with Chaz and him family, right? Him farmer, love interest. She not have no love for John really, because of what he did with Chaz and, basically making Chaz that type of person. Gary Lester, same way, right? And even when it comes down to the thick of things, we still can count on John to be who he is, right? Even if you hate him guts, you have to respect him because he has a mission, and his mission is to do good, but using bad, right? When man look upon him and say, boy, why you never pray instead of using a demon to heal yourself, right? It's like, boy, I mean, I have no time for that. Basically, that's the kind of messaging he give. But how many persons actually consider that what it is that makes us the type of human race is that we are multifaceted set of human beings. Things aren't always necessarily black and white. Sometimes there are some things that has a purpose of good, but some eggs have a crack, right? But at least at the end of it, we can evaluate it and say, this was good. As our journey through the universe of sci-fi television continues, the fabled milestone of 1,000 downloads lies ahead. Your support fuels this adventure. Share, follow, and let your voice echo through the cosmos. Until we meet again, may the stars light your path, and the unknown awaken your curiosity.